the gauntlet of these chalk stones. I mentioned the floods and how they move debris down through the canyons. It becomes wedged between the walls. And I'm crawling up and over and then down and underneath. And I get down through the last chalk stone as I have to drop my pack and then belly like commando crawl underneath that one to another ledge. And now this ledge here, 10 feet down. But this one is filled with debris in the bottom of the canyon, such that it's not safe for me to just free fall down if I get into a position that will allow me. So I have to first make a couple maneuvers, and there's a chalk stone, one of these boulders wedged between the walls, moved into place by a flood, and I kick at it. I make sure that it's stable, and I stand on it, I put my hands against the opposite walls of the canyon, and I start to lower myself down to where I'm finally, as I'm lowering myself off of this bus tire-sized rock, I mean maybe 800 pounds or so, and I'm dangling from it. So as if I had the skill to make a slam dunk on a basketball hoop, but I'm hanging from the rim. And as I move my hands into place and lower myself a little bit more, with my feet dangling just 1 foot closer now and almost ready to let go, and then that boulder moves. Who knows for how many thousands of years it had been stuck there, pushed into place by the floods. But now instead of it being pushed, I'm pulling on it from the opposite direction. I rotate it inadvertently, my body weight spinning it with this torque, and it comes loose. I'll take a break here as we cue up a video that demonstrates exactly what happened in that moment. Smashed in by this nearly half-ton rock falling for me. The boulder smashes into my left hand, crushing it against the left wall of the canyon, and smashes into my right hand. After it's ricocheting, it's moving so erratically, I'm trying to get myself out of the way, and then the rock becomes wedged once more between the walls of the canyon. But this time, rather than being up high, it's down right in front of me. It's dropped about 6 feet. And now, instead of it being me being free, I'm trapped. It happens so fast that I actually can look at my arm and have this moment where I'm in disbelief before the pain even gets to my brain. And then it hits. And the adrenaline follows immediately. I just went into a rage, this fury of adrenaline and brute force bubbling up from inside of me to try anything I could do to lift the boulder or pull it forward. I just saw it move. Why can't I make it move? Get your arm out of there. After 45 minutes, an hour of struggling, including some cursing that I think would probably make a pirate blush, that I finally got myself to calm down. Has any of you been through a crisis? You know that you can continue to freak yourself out, or you have to get to a point at some moment where you just stop, take a few breaths, think about what's going on, make some observations, come up with a plan. Well, my observations, as it were, to look around the canyon and see these chalk stones right above me, these refrigerator-sized boulders that were hanging like the sword of Damocles over my head. Had your finger smashed in a car door, for example, that take that multiplied times 100. But I knew that the pain wasn't going to kill me. What was going to get me was if I could get free. I only had a liter of water. And that liter of water is not going to get me very far. And I realized as that afternoon turns to night, that darkness comes over the the canyon that I'm going to have to work at getting myself out of it. I come up with the options, and as they are, I can use my knife that I have to try to chip away at the rock and extricate my hand. I work through the options of being able to lift the boulder, perhaps by improvising an anchor and a pulley system to pull on that boulder and perhaps with greater force being able to lift it off of my arm. Thirdly, I think about, well, there's the possibility of rescue. I mean, I met two nice people. Maybe they'll come back for me. Maybe there'll be more people. Maybe eventually my colleagues, my roommates, they'll contact my family and a rescue, a search will get underway. And I get to the idea that strikes me even within the first hour that, Aaron, you're going to have to cut your arm off. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to cut my arm off. Dude, you're going to have to cut your arm off. Well, I don't normally address myself as dude, but nor am I normally thinking about like, I'm going to have to cut my arm off either. It's all very, very, just crazy. How is this happening? I'm trapped, I'm stuck, I'm otherwise uninjured, but I'm not going to live for very long. In the desert, in this hole, nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows the situation I'm in. Well, those are my top four options. I start through that first night, darkness, chipping away at the rock. 15 hours of effort as I work by headlamp and I'm able to chip, 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 flick, flick. And I make some progress over that time by just carabiners in order to try to improvise this rigging to try to lift the boulder. And after many hours of effort of trying to lasso something out of sight, up above me, up over that ledge where I first stood when I kicked at that rock, and to try to get the ropes to catch. Finally they do, and I improvise this system. I've been trained in search and rescue, so I knew more or less what to do in order to make most efficient use of the gear that I had. And yet still, I didn't actually have pulleys, and I had this dynamic, stretchable climbing rope, not a static rope. So all the energy I put into the system of trying to lift the rock, in the end, I ended up creating this mechanical disadvantage system rather than a mechanical advantage system. It just ate up all the force that I could put into it. It was futile. And so that second option falls away too. I move on to the third option of perhaps I can wait for help. Now in the afternoon moments is the Sunday, the second day of my entrapment is rolling on, and I know, well, people are most likely to be here on a weekend, and they're most likely to get to this part of the canyon in the afternoon. But as the afternoon progresses and no one comes, I know that I'm not going to survive to see another human being. If it's the next weekend before someone else just happens across me there, I'll be a pile of bones by that point. I mean, say one of those floods hits while I'm there, it's just going to tear me apart. There won't even be a recognizable bit of me left. And so I come back to that idea of amputation. Now at first, I don't even think about that. And now I have to make a plan. If I can get free, what do I do? Do I go back to my bike and then ride to my truck, or do I head for my truck, knowing that I'll have to do that big rappel? I'm weighing all the options about these decision points, trying to come up with something. Well, if I can get free and I head for my truck, I'll go down over that rappel. Maybe there'll be water along the way. I'm going to need some water. I'm going to have to hike for another 7 miles past that rappel point. So then the point in the bottom of the canyon, you talk about a long slog.